What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Quarantine. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a game by the name of Hex Hex XL. Now, Hex Hex XL is a game of basically hot potato, where there is a hex that's been cast, and you are deflecting it all around the table until one person, or multiple peoples in certain cases, cannot deflect that hex, and they wind up, taking a hex. And ultimately, it's like I mentioned, a game, kind of a game of hot potato. That's really the best way I can explain it, so let's go on over to the overview. So a game of Hex Hex is actually very, very simple to play. So you're going to choose one person to be the dealer, and whoever's to the left of the dealer is the first caster. So each player is going to have 5 cards in their hand, as you see here. Now you're going to play one of these cards, and you're just going to do what it says. So for example, this one here says draw fire. Draw a card, hex passes to a player across the table. More than one player, choose one. So I'm going to play this, and I'm going to hand this to this player here. And that player has to go through their hands, and then maybe they're going to turn aside left. Hex passes to a player to their left. So they're going to play this, and they're going to hand this to the player to their left. And so on and so forth. However, some of the cards that you can play maybe split the hex and break it into 2, and now I give it to this person and this person. Then that person maybe breaks it in 2, and I give it to this person and this person. So now you have all of these hexes just flying all over the table, and sometimes they are becoming doubled or thrice, or maybe they're being boosted, which just does all kinds of nasty things as these jump around the table. However, once you get a hex, if you're not able to pass this off to somebody else, maybe because you don't want to, maybe because you're holding some cards in your hand because there's other hexes flying around, but regardless, you will lose 1 point of voice, which is here on your tracker. You're going to start at 5, and you can get all the way down to -20. So you're going to slowly be losing voice and gaining voice. However, some of the cards do things that are unique, such as adding special effects to the cards, such as you see here, you see maddening. You also have rot. You have escalating. You have different effects that can be on the hex. So if I had a hex here, I can add rot to it, and then maybe I also add I don't know, escalating or maddening to it as well. So this hex, all 3 of these tokens are going to be passing around. And some of the other cards do different things, like divide and conquer. You don't lose voice from the hex targeting you. Instead, you assess the full amount that you would have lost, and then the player to your left loses it instead, or to the left and right lose it instead. Or maybe maddening compulsion. The hex passes to the player on your left. All players are now compelled to pass the hex to the left by any means possible. If they can't, they are hexed. So there's going to be several cards, and as you see here, there's a good number of cards and lots of different types of effects that you can add to the hex. Some of them are just simple left and right, some of them are across the table, some of them add effects to the cards, some of them split hexes. But you're going to continue to do that until you've played a predetermined amount of rounds that you determined before you even start playing. Now the game does come with 2 variants that I'm not going to cover in too much depth here, but you have the Vexed cards, and then you also have the Hex and Sticks cards, which the game also comes with. Big wooden sticks that you also will be including into the crazy kind of gameplay that you're going to have here. Now the Vexed cards, whenever you do get a hex, and instead of just losing voice, you also are going to be flipping over these Vexed cards, and these are the spells that you've actually been hexed with. So rather than just being generic hexes, they actually have a purpose. So for example, this one, the Vexed players may not say the word you. If they do, they have to discard a card of your choice. So it just adds kind of zany laws to the game that you now have to obey, or you have to suffer the consequences. Now with the Hex and Sticks, you're going to have some cards that you're going to shuffle into this main deck that directly correspond to the Sticks variant, but essentially it's going to add a dexterity kind of aspect to the game where you're going to involve these sticks instead. Now, at the end of your predetermined amount of rounds that you're going to play, whoever has the most voice, which in certain cases could be whoever has the least negative, would be declared the winner of Hex Hex XL. Alright, Hex Hex XL. Well, right out of the gates, I generally enjoy Smirk and Dagger's games. The Cutthroat Cavern series, I thoroughly enjoy. It doesn't make it to the table as often as I'd like, but it is a very good game. And they're kind of notorious for their screw your friends kind of game, which is cool. I enjoy those types of games. So I was a little excited to bring Hex to the table. And I'm just going to say right out of the gates, the game is definitely not for everybody. It is basically a game of hot potato, where you're just throwing these hexes all around the table and hoping you don't end up with one. But where the problem with the game does lie is a lot of the time it's going to feel very, very random. Like there's not a lot of choice involved in the game. It's more, hope you got the right cards and hope you don't wind up with one, and that's pretty much it. It's very prone to the screw that guy kind of mentality, where everybody can just kind of make sure that guy gets all the hexes. But there is a little bit of a mitigation to that, because the strategy of the game is, when are you going to play these cards? Do you want to go ahead and eat this hex and go ahead and lose a voice, just so when another hex is passed to you, maybe you look like you're out of cards? You're like, oh no, I don't have a lot I can do, and then somebody gives you a hex and you're like, boom, and you break it into two and throw it at two other people. Or maybe you take the hex, you wait because maybe there's a hex with rot floating around, which is even worse. So instead, you go ahead and eat a normal hex just so you can split one with rot up to throw at other people. And so there is strategy behind the game, but how random the game can feel is definitely going to turn some people off. Now some of the variants here, like the Vexed, are really fun. I do enjoy these ones, and these ones make the hexes less generic. It's not just, oh, I lost a voice. Now, Vexed players must use their left hand to pass a hex to the right, and vice versa. If they don't, they just lose a voice. So it adds a little bit of like ha-ha silliness to the game, but it's not super unreasonable, and it gives you a little bit more reason than just, oh, I lost a voice, which kind of goes back to my previous thing that some people aren't going to like. Do you eat that hex and possibly take one of these really bad cards just so you can save a few more pieces of voice and throw it at somebody else? It winds up giving you a little bit more thinking to do, which is really neat. Now, these hex sticks. The hex and sticks are also very interesting because a little bit more in depth of how they work is throughout this deck, you're going to have some of these hex and stick cards in it. So you may never come across them if you're lucky, or unlucky, I guess how you want to put it, and all of those cards wind up near the bottom. But if there is one that's played, then whoever plays it has to yell grab, loud, and everybody has to grab a stick. And you're going to have one stick less than the number of players. So then you have to deal with what the card is. So whoever grabbed an ebony card, they have one thing that they have to do. Maybe a penalty, maybe a bonus, whatever. Anybody who grabbed a bone, they also have something. But the person who doesn't have anything, generally speaking, they are going to have a huge penalty. And so they add another level of kind of zany silliness to the game. Of course, the person who played the Hex and Sticks card, they know what they need to reach for, depending on, for example, if they didn't get a card, you lose voice equal to the number of grabs played this game, which could be devastating. And if you, with just this card, if you grabbed a bone, take one voice from a player holding an ebon and add it to your score, which is pretty cool. But there's nothing for the ebon player. Ebon player gets nothing. So they add another level of kind of zaniness and silliness to the game, which is pretty neat. So overall, we actually did not enjoy this game at all. It's a little too random, a little too kind of forced silliness for our taste. With that said, though, I can definitely respect the game. I can definitely see where certain groups of people are going to find this game incredibly fun. And maybe if I played with the right group of people, this would be a very fun game. Because again, it's just like, it's a game of hot potato. It's all it is. It's very basic, very simple. The rules are this. That's it. So there's not a whole lot of rules to the game. Most of the game is very self-explanatory. If you do play it with the right group of people, the game can be very fun. It can be a lot of laughs had around the table. It's definitely a good drinking game. Sit around the table, have a few drinks, blast some music, Metallica in the background or something as you guys are slinging spells at each other, and then now you can't say the word you. The game is going to appeal to certain groups of people. It just wasn't our forte. So I guess you could take that how you will. I do recommend this for if your group likes kind of silly party games. But if you're not into those, probably shy away. So overall, that is my review for Hex Hex XL. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the Quarantine.